Welcome to Fixed Ops Focus, the show that treats your service department like the profit center it pretends to be. Here with the no BS truth, Dave Rogers and Steve Shaw.
Here we go again. Dave Rogers, how you doing, sir?
Doing fantastic, Steve Shaw. Fantastic. How about you?
I love it. You're always in a great mood, just like me. You're always in a great mood.
Nobody cares if you're in a shitty mood. So
I know, that's right. Nobody cares. When I was a kid, when I first started running, I ran this big auto group. It was my first time I got to run multiple stores. A guy walked up to me and he's like, how you doing? I go, having the best day of my life, or I go, living the dream or something, like that. And he goes, I heard that about you. He says, you are always in a great mood. He said, that's what people say about you. I'm like, shit, cool. You know what I mean? What would you want? What else would you want? People think you're a grumpy old guy.
I read a book and listened to Zig Ziglar years ago, and he was big on that. Just fantastic. Everything's wonderful, right? You just, because it's contagious a little bit, and you know what?
Yeah.
Nobody wants to hear you're miserable. So
Right.
what do? You're going to bring everybody around you down. So you might as well, I've been saying fan-damn-tastic for years, whether I mean it or not.
It's amazing. It's amazing. I was watching, I'm not going to say the guy's name because we're getting into politics. I was watching these two newscasters talk when I was young. And one of the guys was very right-wing conservative, yada, yada, yada. And he said, somebody made the comment, he's always got a smile on his face. And he said, the conservative commentator says, my mentor told me, no matter what, don't get mad. He said, always keep a smile on your face while you're interviewing somebody, even if you're having a spirited debate. Always have a smile on your face. You know what I mean? For one, you don't want to let the other guy get to you. But two, it's just like, hey, we're having a conversation. This is fun. It's not, this is fun stuff, right? And so even if it's on podcasting or out, in a training setting or at our dealerships, we set the tone, don't we? I mean, we walk in the store, and if I'm in a shitty mood, everybody's going to be in a crappy mood. So, it's really up to us to put our best face forward on, check your feelings at the door. Check them.
It's true though. Every day you come in, whether you're the manager, everyone's going to look to you. They're going to look at you. Whether you're a GM or you're a service manager, parts manager, if you come in, you're in a pissy mood, you're just going to change you're going to change the whole attitude of the whole store. So you might as well just pretend you're happy, even if you're not, because your people. I had a mall I was working at, and we had a centralized accounting office. And 8 o'clock in the morning, the women from the accounting office would get on the phone with my cashiers and my advisors and blow them new buttholes about all the mistakes they made for the day before, right? And I finally had to put a stop to it because they were setting off my cashiers and my advisors first thing in the morning, right? They'd be yelling at them about all the mistakes they made. I finally said, you can't talk to anybody in the store anymore. And I caused a lot of waves with that. I'm like, you got to talk to me. If you're going to call somebody, you're going to complain about somebody didn't close an RO right, somebody didn't cashier, they're a penny off. You can't light up all my people first thing in the morning. And it's something, it's so true though, and you have to watch your attitude. You really have to watch at least your persona, what people think of you. It's very true.
So when I'm a young man, I'm working at this Pontiac store, and I guess I screwed something up. I must have screwed something up. But this guy was my boss. His name was Ted Hemme. I'll never forget him. I don't even know if he's still around anymore. But Ted says, son, I'm going to give you some advice. I don't know what I did I must have done something wrong because I'm going to give you advice. Because there's the number one rule. And I eventually learned the number two rule. But the number one, I'm going to tell you the two top rules for service managers in the car business. The number one rule is don't piss off the business office. And I'm like, okay, that's a good rule. If I piss the business office off, I apologize. I will never do that again. Now, one time I fired the controller's husband, but that's a whole different deal, right? Now, the number two rule is never show up to a tech meeting without enough pizza.
Both are good rules.
So I've tried to follow those rules along with a smile most of my entire career. I try to do a good job. I'm not saying I'm perfect at it. That's for sure.
I'll tell you my rule one day, my golden rule. I'll tell you that one next show.
Next show. Okay. Too many rules for this episode.
Yeah.
But you know what? I got to talk about Damon. Remember when Damon was on from Canada, right? Dude. Damon says, I love this term. You have to make business frictionless, right? He said, make it frictionless. Thank you, Damon. That is now a term. I've incorporated that into my training. I'm going to send Damon a certificate. Make business frictionless, right? He's probably going to call me and say, where's my certificate at? So frictionless. So I just get back from my trip from Sheboygan, I get back into town, and one of my neighbors down in the Florida Keys calls me up and she says, "Steve, I got to tell you a story." And I'm like, "Oh, here we go, right? Here we go." And this my neighbor, they're pretty well-to-do people, right? They do well. They have a house here in Tampa like me, and they got a house in the Florida Keys, and they have a small business, do pretty well, right? She drives a Cadillac, so she must do okay. She drives a Cadillac, takes her Cadillac in for service back in December. And the service advisor, good job, said, "Hey, your tires, you're going to need tires soon." Didn't use the Steve Shaw approach, but she said, "You're going to need some tires soon. And by the way, we're going to have a tire special coming up in March. Buy one, get one." And the advisor said, "I'm going to put you on my list and I will call you in March." And so my friend Kelly says, "Yeah, great. Awesome. Sounds great. Keep me in the loop. I'll get some tires." So March rolls around, and the advisor from this particular Cadillac store, of course, did not call, right? Which, okay, I can live with that. I could live with that as a whatever. So my friend Kelly calls in. She calls the service department and says, "Hey, can I talk to so-and-so?" Gets the service advisor and says, "I want to get those tires that we talked about, back in December." And the service advisor goes, "Oh yeah, come on down and I'll take a look at your tires and I'll get you a price." And she says, "No, no, no. I just want to get a price on tires and then I can make a decision, whatever." She goes, "Come on down. You got to come down so I can look at your tires." And my friend said, "No, just give me a price so I can make a decision." And the lady was like adamant, "No, you got to come in so we can look at your tires." So my friend said this, "You know what? I just wanted a price on tires so I could decide, do I want to put new tires on my Cadillac or buy a new one? And since you're being not a nice person," and she used a word that sounds like snitch that starts with a B. And because I don't say those words, she said this lady was very much a B. And she goes, "You know what? I'm going to go buy a Lexus." And so by the time that she called me up, she already had a new Lexus.
Yep.
It's frictionless.
Wow. Frictionless. I bet you she bought the Lexus with no friction.
I bet she walked right in. She was like, what was that show? The prostitute in Beverly Hills. What was that? The hooker chick, walking down Beverly Hills, or what was that? They wouldn't in Beverly Hills, they wouldn't, everybody knows this freaking thing. They wouldn't, they said she didn't qualify to buy any clothes in Beverly Hills, right? And so she walked away. It was Julia, whatever, I can't think of the name of the song.
Roberts?
Julia Roberts, yeah. And Richard Gere. Everybody's going to put it.
Pretty Woman. Okay,
Pretty Woman, right? So she couldn't buy her clothes in Beverly Hills on Rodeo Drive, right? And anyway, so she goes out and spends thousands and thousands of dollars and comes back and showed the lady, "I bet you work on commission, right?" That's exactly what Kelly was like. She's like, "I'm going to drive over there and show her my new car."
It's funny. The no first or the obstacles in the way is one of the pain points most car dealerships have, especially in service, right? It's always, they're always looking for, "No, we don't do that," or "No, we can't do that." You'll get me on the ramp, but the maintenance lights, right? I've seen an advisor say this: "Is your light, Steve wants an oil change. Can I have an oil change? Is the light on?" "What light?" Right? That's the what light? "The one that says an oil change." "I don't know I had a light. I just want to bring my car in.
Right.
It's 6 months old. I want to get an oil change." "No, but there's a light on." How about just saying, "Bring your damn car down. I'm going to
Get
do
in
the
here.
I want to do your oil change." Like, why does there have to be rules on this stuff?
Right.
If you're calling me up and you're asking me for my business, why am I going to throw a wrench in it? The car was just there. You don't know the tires? You don't know the tire size? You can't take 2 seconds to figure out to give them a price? It's just, I'll never understand that. And yeah, Damon's term frictionless is perfect for that, because we don't just put friction in the way. We put hurdles. We put cinder block wall, we put the spike strips that if you back up, you're going to blow your tires up. This is what we do in this business for some reason. And it just doesn't make any sense. It really just doesn't.
This will get way off track, right? I call that diagnostic charge.
Okay.
So I want to
it's a
get my
hurdle.
car service and I drive in your store. "Hey, my check engine light is on." What's the first thing out of every service advisor's mouth? $150 to diag your car. What? What do you mean you're going to charge me $150 so you can tell me what's wrong with my car? Listen, I get all the arguments. I get all of it. But I'm going to give you $300, $400, $500,000 and you want $150 before I can give you $550, $1,000. Nothing drives me more crazy than that. That's the biggest hurdle on the planet.
There's two things. I'm not a big fan of the diagnostic time. There's an exception to that. I'll give you an exception in a minute. exception, the diagnostic charge, I'm not a big fan of it, and I'm not a big fan of prepaid parts. All right. And I tell people all the time, when you order parts at the counter, having a
Okay.
customer prepaid, I'm not a big fan.
Okay. Tell me
Because
why. I'm not sure about that.
the
Tell me.
prepaid parts, a lot of times, is because when they start calling and they want their money back, and they get to the GM or they get to me, I'm giving them their money back,
Right.
right? You know what I mean? Like why you bother now? If you want to tell me you took a deposit, you want to take a little bit of money,
Okay.
whatever. But the prepaid part where you're saying, 90% of the time we can return the part.
Well, I know what you mean now. Yeah, sure. I agree with
Yeah,
you.
now it's a VIN coded part, or if it's a key that I have to get made for you, that's the exception on the prepaid parts, right? I got to get a computer for you. It's VIN coded. Yeah, you're paying for it. I'm not giving your money back. But I will tell you, if the customer calls to enough people, they're going to get their money back, right?
I know.
And then, right? And the diag fee, the only time I've ever been a big fan of the diag fee is to weed out the problem. So we started running Carfaxes, and we've told people, you get a car that's never been there before, you get a guy that car comes in 80,000 miles and never been to your store before, or he bought the car from you and he'd never been to your store before. Before we talk anything to the customer, run a Carfax. Now, if that car's got a branded title, it was in a flood, right? You know what, Steve? I'm going to hit you up for $600 in diagnostic fees that you don't get back, by the way, right? You're going to give me $600 to rip through this car. But if you're a regular customer and you're coming in on your normal thing, and it's somebody, if I look in the value screen, you bought 3 cars from me, you've been servicing your car here, I agree with you 100%. We shouldn't be charging a diag fee. Take it
Yeah,
on the chin. Take it on the chin. If the guy decides not to get the work done, pay the tech an hour. It's going to cost you $50 and move on with life.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
I agree with you 100%.
I'm at a Porsche store. I'm the service manager at a Porsche store. And again, it was obstacle city, right? Oh, it's so, you should be lucky to have your Porsche serviced here at our Porsche dealer, blah, blah, blah. And so I go, we are going to start. They would charge diag for brakes. If you came in with a brake noise, they would charge you 2 freaking hours to look at your brakes. And I said to these 2 men, I go, we're going to not charge diag for brakes anymore. And these guys looked at me like, what are you doing? And they go, this was their words. If we stop charging diagnosis, there will be a line of Porsches down the street to get their brakes looked at.
Boy, there's a terrible thing.
That's what I said. I go, holy shit. Did you just hear yourselves? And when they heard themselves say that, they were just like, yeah, we lost that one, didn't we, Steve?
That's the line I used to use with my kids all the time. I'd say it again one more time out loud, and let's see if it sounds just as goddamn stupid as it did the first time. And they, yeah, that sounds really dumb. And listen, there's a percentage of the people out there that are just mooches. They're just gonna, they're gonna come in to get you diagnosed. What are you dealing with them for? They're gonna bury you on a Google review anyway.
Right. Who cares?
So just now, a lot of times they do this. A lot of times managers and advisors do this diagnostic time because they're letting the tail wag the dog with the shop, right? And a lot of times, if you really look at it and you really dive in, it's not your experienced techs that are forcing this. It's the not so experienced guys. It's the younger kids. They can't flat rate a job. So they want the 1 hour up front. And I used to call that, and it wasn't diagnostic time. I'd make fun of the guys in the one BMW store I had, and I called it survey time. So we'd get an hour, and then they'd walk around and they'd ask the veterans, hey, what do you think it is? What do you think it is? What do you think? They couldn't diagnose a thing, right? So I used to tell the guys up there, stop charging it. This is survey time. I said, so we're not going to charge customers for the tech to walk around the shop, and let's give the car to somebody that can really diag it, and then we'll figure it out, But I agree with you 100%.
I look at what a diagnostic charge to the customer and paying my technician is 2 separate things. Totally different things. Because I kind of have a philosophy very similar. I'm never charging diag. I may ask for pre-approved, like a pre-approval limit. Like, what would you consider up to $500 without calling you, whatever. I would do something like that. And I would tell my tech, this is what we've always done is you get paid 5/10 no matter what. You go to the car, no matter what happens, you get 5/10. Now, if you need more than a half hour to diagnose that car, then what I want you to do is come back up to me, and then I will call the customer, and I will go sell a diag. We call it express diag, right? So then I'll go sell it to the customer because I know you spent 5/10. However, there's a catch, Mr. Technician. If you want more than 5/10, then you have to be clocked in on it from the minute you get the car, right? So I got to clock in. I get my 5/10. You get the 5/10 you need more. I'm happy to have a conversation with the customer. If not, take your 5/10 and run, right?
I
Take your
agree.
5/10 and run. And then that's just free. And then what's it cost me? Like $25, who cares? Who cares? And the goodwill that you would get for that, please.
Well, listen, the aftermarkets advertise the free diagnostic for the check engine light, and we know all they do is they plug in the meter and they get a code. That's all they do, right? And then they tell
Right.
you there'll be additional diagnostic time or additional charges to get into it deeper. Or when it's in over their head, you know what they'll say is, "Oh, that's probably a recall. You should take that back to the dealership, right? Because they can't fix the car." But they scan the car for free. Like that's the other thing. Why don't we do that as a second? Just scan the card for free. What does it take? You can have a
Right.
scanner in the drive-through.
Yeah.
You don't
Exactly.
need a technician to scan the car, right? So yeah, for some reason we like to say no. I don't know if it's because we have this is the only place in the world where we have authority, right? So I could tell you no, right?
Bunch
Yeah.
of Karens.
Yeah. Well, listen, I tell people this with the technician sometimes, and I don't mean to ruffle feathers, but you know who you are out there if you're listening, you know, and listen, I was a married guy. I got a girlfriend. I know what it's like, right? You come home, your wife tells you when you're going to go on vacation. She tells you where you're going to go on vacation, right? You kind of let her choose those things. It's not like you don't like to fight about it, right? There's a little things I don't care what color the bathroom is. I don't care what color the house is. Let her decide that stuff, right? But when I come to work, I'm the boss, right? I got all the rules, right? I can make all the rules. And I think that's what happens to people sometimes is they don't have the ability in their personal life to tell anybody what to do. So they come to work and they boss customers around.
Oh my
And
God.
no, I think that's what people do. I'm not saying it's right. I just think that's
No.
what they do. It's crazy.
I, I've never understood it. But I also think it's because, and I know this is going to piss everybody off. You pissed off all the techs. I'm going to piss off all the advisors because I can't sell shit. So I'm going to
Yeah.
get my $150 ahead, or the technician says he's not going to sell it anyway. So I want my hour. Right. And so, again, I always try to separate the two, but because you don't sell anything and you get tons of declines, so you want to get a diag up front, acting like it's me, the customer, that I'm the ass. No, I came in because I got a problem and I'm asking you to fix it. I do a lot of stuff with opcodes for that, like diagnosis opcode, or I would have I would diagnose it. I'd have a repair and a decline type of opcode. And again, the diag could be free as far as that goes, but I'm going to put diag check engine light, and so I'm going to, how many diagnoses did I do? How many repairs did I do? And how many declines I do? And so if we're not monitoring it, we don't know. And you just got a bunch of people throwing diag time around. And all we're telling is the customer that, hey, I'm really expensive. I'm $150 an hour. That's what I'm planting in your head is I'm $150 an hour or $200 an hour, whatever that fee is. And the customer's like, oh shit, these guys are expensive. Maybe I'll look around,
No, I mean, listen, I do think technicians should be paid for their time to diagnose the car, but I think it's built into the operations, or it should be built into the operations. If I'm going to replace an O2 sensor, maybe it only takes 15 minutes to put the O2 sensor in, but that job pays an hour, right? That might be or an hour and a half, whatever, which included, because when you look at the old days, the Chilton book, the Motors Manual, whatever, it includes diagnose and replace O2 sensor and retest when it's done. That's what it includes. So if it's a 2-hour job, it's a 2-hour job, right? Now, maybe the guy spent the first 15, 20 minutes, 25 minutes diagnosing it. It still all rolls up into his time, right? I'm going to price that job out at 2 hours. So, that's the piece where everyone always seems to, I don't know what happened in the business, but that's the way it's always been, right? Is the job is 2 hours. So, why you have to break it up and tell Steve you have to authorize the first hour? Like, yeah. And I've been in stores that the boss made us do that. I've been in stores where that was the service manager's way of doing it, but it's never been my philosophy. The only time I said is, as I will bring it out, is if I think I got somebody that's trying to pull a fast one. And now that I have Carfax availability and I can see the car was just in an accident last week. Oh, Steve, you got a problem with your left front headlight. Was that before or after it came out of the body shop? Oh, well, I didn't notice it. All right, well, listen, we're going to have to take the car apart. This car was just in an accident. There's going to be some time involved. There's going to be some money involved. I don't know if you want to get your insurance company involved. I don't know if you want to take it back to the dealer where you had the work done, whatever the case may be. But I'm going to be transparent about that. But I'm going to let you know right off the bat, this is probably related to your accident, right? So it's not going to be covered under warranty. Are we clear, right? And those things I think you should get out of the way before you waste your time or waste the technician's time with something. But if the car wasn't in an accident, the car's got 50,000 miles on it, it's been coming to you for a couple of years, roll the dice, baby. Roll the dice.
That's it, man. Take a chance. Listen, you've hired me as a manager to practice my trade, which is to sell shit, right? Or to get people to buy. And so let me do my job. Just give me every single card that you can put in front of me. Let me shove it into the shop. Let me get the diagnosis. That's when I get to go practice my trade. That's when I get to go show my expertise, is to show you what a great job of a salesperson that I am, and I can close that deal. You know what I mean? And I'm with you 100%, man. We gotta that diagnostic charge has got to go. I can see the thumbnail.
And I've had some of the
diagnostic
best
charge has got to go.
some of the best techs I've ever had work for me, guys that produce the most hours. They didn't care if there was an hour diag on a ticket. Just give me the ticket. What are you doing with that drop-off envelope? Oh, Fred's waiting until he calls the customer to get, diagnostic time. Just give me the goddamn thing. Give me it. I'll figure it out. I'll have it diagnosed before Fred can write the RO. Just give me,
Right.
And those are the guys that made 100 hours a week. Those are the guys that, that produced all the time. They didn't care about that stuff, and again, the diag time is packed into the repair. Let's be honest. That's what it is, right? It's not your 3/10 extra like on warranty claims where you have to fight for 3/10 or 6. It's built into the customer pay labor time guide.
And on a customer side, the minute you say, this is every advisor's favorite word. Well, if you buy the repair, we roll it in, which basically means,
they say they waive it, which is false.
yeah, they say they waive it, or I'm going to waive it, which means I've included it into the cost, right? I just jacked up the price $150 and I didn't show it on the RO. Well, you're a fucking liar. And that's what I love to, I'll tell you, because I can catch you. And I know I refer back to my silly book that I wrote. Go on, ask the service advisor, where'd you get your time? And I used to tell people, ask the service advisor, where'd you get your time? Did you get out of Chilton or did you pull it out of your ass? And most of the time they pulled the time out of their ass. The tech goes, oh, I want 5 hours for this. And no one even looked. And so I think it's a total cop-out, and I think it's totally wrong. And we are going to get the advisor is going to get caught. And there was repairpal.com. I don't know if it's still out there anymore. But on RepairPal, it will tell you in, Pottstown, Pennsylvania, to replace a mass airflow sensor, the average cost is $300. And if you rolled in the cost of the diag for another $150, well, you're outside the range. And now you've lied to the customer. And everybody's always like, oh, I don't want to ever, do this or do that. Well, you're a liar right out of the gate when you tell me you're going to roll it in. You're going to waive the charge and roll it into the cost of the repair.
True. Did I ever show you my diag wheel that I made?
No.
I had some guys that couldn't diagnose a car to save their life, right?
Uh-huh.
So it's actually an app, and it looks like a wheel at the boardwalk.
Right.
Right. So you spin it. So the choices are: I have no idea, no problem found, ask the shop foreman, it's probably a sensor, it's probably wiring, because that's about what you get for diag time when you give it to some of these guys. Yeah, I pissed them off.
Spin the wheel, baby.
Spin the wheel. Hold on a second. Let's get the wheel out. Let's find out what you're diagnosing. To go back to your original point, though, is the friction. So whether it's the lady that wants tires, whether it's the customer that wants to change his oil 4 times a year, 4 times. Oh my God. No, he wants to change his oil 4 times a year. He's 70 years old. He's been doing that for the last 60 years. He wants to change his oil 4 times a year. And he knows it costs $80. Just take his money, right? It makes him happy to change his oil. If the guy wants to rotate his tires every 3 months, let him rotate his tires. You know what I mean? Like, I don't understand why people just say no.
Or the technician comes back and goes, it doesn't need rotation. I'm like, bullshit.
Oh, that's the one. Yeah, because what it is in that one is they just don't feel like taking the wheels off because they don't want to check the brakes. That's what it is. I'm like, how do you know the car doesn't need a tire rotation? I've had express techs. They've been in the business for a minute and a half, right? And they're telling the advisors the tires don't need to be rotated. The car's done outside. I'm like, how do they know the tires don't need to be rotated? They said, well, the tires are worn evenly. I go, that's because the guy rotates the tires every 6 months. If they weren't worn evenly, it would mean that he never rotated the tires. Get it back in and rotate the tires. But these guys, and then nobody can tell you if the best tires are supposed to be in the front or the back anymore. What? I said, and nobody in the shops, you ask the mechanic, they can't tell you if the best tires are supposed to be on the front or the back anymore. They can't tell you that, whether it's a front wheel drive, rear wheel drive, all-wheel drive. Just rotate the tires, right? It's crazy.
Why is it so hard? It's like when it was about 5 years ago before COVID, I had our website, right? And it was before I had Stacy as my web designer. I built a website, yada, yada, yada. Then I kind of bolted a few different options on, and, I had a guy to go into my website. I was trying to get him he wanted to do something. I wanted to look at the website, and it was real clunky. I mean, at the time, my website was really clunky. And, I couldn't get the guy to log in and do this and that, and so I was like, "Okay, I'm not living up to my principles of make it easy for people to spend money," because it was very difficult, so I was like, "Okay, done," and that's when I found my new IT person, Stacy, and now my life is amazing, but it was hard, like, I was making it very difficult for people to pay me, and I'm my own company, right? And, so if I can't if I'm preaching this, I gotta do it myself, and so we went out and made it easy for people to give us money, and 1,000 stores later, we do well, but if you don't make it easy, I'm gonna go down and buy another car from somebody else.
Exactly what happens, right? And it's any part of the process, whether it's buying parts, whether it's buying a car, whether it's buying a used car, a new car, it doesn't really matter. Extended warranty, does it have to be difficult to do, right? Yeah, I think we've talked about, we talked about service lane and selling service contracts in the service
Yeah, we were
drive.
talking about that before, yeah.
You talk about that, like, if you get, we don't do that here. What do you mean you don't do that? I want to buy a service contract from me. What do you, well, we don't do that here. Like, why are we doing this stuff? We should be saying yes and right now. I had a boss, that's what he used to say all the time. Yes and right now. That was it,
Yes.
right? The
Let's do
answer is
it.
always yes, and let's do it now. That's the answer, right?
Why are we fooling around? Why are we fooling
Yeah.
around? The reason I drove well, look, I shopped all over. I shopped all over for my Wagoneer. I had one criteria. Two. I wanted the black carbide edition, and it had to be flat toe because of my bus, right? I would call people up and say, "I'm looking for a black carbide edition Wagoneer. Do you have one?" "I don't know. Let me look." "Well, you got 20 on your lot." And then they didn't know what a black carbide, what it was. And then they didn't know what flat toe meant. They didn't know which number to look for. So they don't know the product, right? And so then I take my Wrangler into the store right down the street from me, which happens to be unfortunately where I'm getting my car worked on right now. But I took my Wrangler in, and they did such a bad job working on my Wrangler that I said, "You're out. I don't care if you got the car on your lot or not. I'm not buying a car from you because your service department sucks." I mean, quite frankly, it sucks, right? So I go down to Tampa. I drive all the way to Tampa to buy a car, and I ended up buying it from a good friend of mine that I know who owns a dealership. And then yeah, and we talked about this, I was like, it wasn't about money, it was just about the service, and so I got such crappy service. So now I'm like, "Oh, man, I just don't feel like driving back all the way to Tampa, 40 miles, 50 miles to get my car service." So I go here to this local store again, and I take a chance. Who do I run into? The same effing service advisor that worked on my Wrangler. He may or may not have remembered me because it was a year ago, and, he does a shitty job. He's doing a crap job, and so I'm gonna get my car back. Now, I actually sent the survey in yesterday, and I didn't wanna give the guy a crappy score. I get it, right? I was like,
Right.
I gave him all 10s, and I made a comment really big in the comments, "A service advisor, wah, 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 but, the car sucks," right? "Electrical problem, car stinks, and I've been waiting on galactic back order for a radio." That's to them. But when I get done, I am gonna blast the heck out of him because he's crap. It's the worst service I've ever had. I won't give him a bad service because I don't do that, but, I mean,
Yeah, no, it's not worth it. It's just not worth it.
it's just
Yeah.
crap, and you wonder why I'm not even gonna say their name, the company stinks.
Yeah.
And, it's how we all get a bad rap because of those people, and that's what sucks, is we get a bad rap because of those people.
I agree 100%. There's always those people. No, they don't want to take your money. They don't want to do business with you. I just don't understand it. I feel for your lady friend there with the tires. Like, how hard is it to give somebody a price of You don't think she could have called Firestone and got a price of tires?
Right, I mean, it's probably a couple $100 a tire. It's gonna cost her,
Okay.
800, she gets 2 for free, so that's $400, right? I'm probably gonna put
Look,
tires
you
in
need
my
an
car.
alignment on the car, and when it's taxed and everything, it's going to be less than $1,000. You're good to go, right? Imagine that. Wow. There you go. I don't know.
Yes. I saw a store I was at, I'm not gonna say where I was at, but I was at a store, and, 3/10 per repair order was a, particular advisor, and I'm like, "Are you just, like, telling people to go away? I mean, are you just telling people to go away? It can't be you can't be taking people's money." I mean, it's gotta be the worst thing I've ever seen in my life. And we run into that every now and then, but, a few weeks ago when I saw that, I was like, "Whoa, how do you get the 3/10, right?" It's
Somebody
the
stealing
worst.
all somebody,
Yeah, I get all this shit.
I don't know.
Because you kinda stink. Uh, there was a thing, I'll let you wrap us up, but I had a dealer group out of Denver, and their motto was, "Yes," with options. It's always yes. Yeah, and then the advisors literally were not allowed to say the word no. That could not come out of your mouth. "Yes, I can do that. Here's how." right? And that was always what they were taught to say, and they were freaking off the chart. It was a great group. It was a great place to train, and a bunch of really good people that wanted to serve you. You know what I mean? As we cross that 30-minute line, I think we probably ought to wrap up.
Well, listen, I think anybody out there, whether you're GM or service managers, I really do think you should take a look at your repair orders and look at your multi-points and see what's being declined in the shop before you even get it. Again, the tire rotation, or, let's see if, listen to the phones being answered, and let's see if there's rules to get a price on the phone, right? Like, because you don't know. You really just don't know. Like, your friend went somewhere else to get a car. You don't know how it's going to impact that person on the other line. If you're making it difficult for them to spend money with you, they're probably going to go. Everybody should want your money. That's what a business is all about, right? But take a look at the repair orders. Take a look at this stuff. Like, I was shocked when I looked at some multi-point inspections, and I saw all these cars going through the express lane, and they didn't have their tires rotated. They weren't, and the brakes weren't checked off on all these cars. And the scariest part was these cars had high mileage on them. They were coming through the express lanes at 60, 70, and 80,000 miles, and nobody was pulling the wheel off these cars, right? Because the $17 an hour lube tech said the tires don't need to be righted or to be rotated, right? Because he'd rather be on his phone watching reels and TikTok. That's what he'd rather be doing than taking tires off a car. So anyway, that's my tip.
That's your tip. Your tip's awesome, and we need to tailor that into our next episode. And because you watched the Father Bob episode, and you heard Father Bob talk about reaping what you sow, right? And then you said you had you wanted to talk about that, right? And that's really what we're doing. But I think we should spend some time talking about that, maybe on our next episode, talking about your motto and about sowing the fruits of your labor, or whatever that particular mantra is. I'm just going to say my mantra would be make it easy for people to spend their money. And let's move on into the next episode next week when I see you.
You got it, man. Great idea.
All right, man. I will catch you later.
Fixed Ops Focus with Dave Rogers and Steve Shaw. Like and subscribe everywhere, or risk your bays going silent and your profits flatlining. We're not begging. Consequences suck.